Hello and welcome to the Dirge of Mourning. I am your host, Andrew, alongside Terry. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at Lament Christ with their first album, The Agonic Fall of Mourners, released in 2021. This album, it's kind of a heavy one.
It is.
It's an emotional stirrer.
It is.
Shall we say?
I love it.
Right? Basically, the themes are as follows: loss, sadness, mourning, of course, and just the overall reflection of those kind of ideas.
I do want to say I absolutely loved it. I was surprised, so I can't wait for us to get into it and explain why. It's really good.
I have to agree there. So without any further ado, track one is just an instrumental.
Yeah, called Loss.
Yes, and it is done extremely well, I thought.
Oh,
you know, the
beautiful.
whole atmosphere of the rain and the quiet voices,
Piano.
the little background piano. You know, this track really gets across a sort of perfect mood to set you in for.
Well, the word that I used for this was soulful.
Yes.
So it sets up as you said, an atmosphere, a sort of pondering, and already your mind goes to, something.
Yeah.
Probably.
Oh, yes.
Coming. Yeah.
Yes, this one sets the tone for the rest of the album. Track 2 continues where track 1 kind of left off, with the thunder, the rain, creating this, like, somber atmosphere.
The title of the song is This Unbearable Pain.
Which I do think the music gets. I think it fits the music, because, again, we have death wailing, as I like to call it. You know, those, like, screaming sounds of agony. The vocals are extremely awesome in this. They really capture this great sadness and great sorrow, and then you've got that despair on top of it. Done insanely well.
I mean, I did jot down a couple things about the music, if you'd like to know.
Yeah.
I thought that the excellent percussion use was very much to emphasize the ideas. Like, it was used when the ideas were coming across. And what else did I like about the sorrowful strings, the wind atmosphere again? Loved it. Oh, and you go on. We'll get to it, I'm sure. There's something that I really like. Okay, go ahead.
So what we have is the dark tones, you know, the death growls and all that kind of fun stuff. But then, at about the 5-minute mark, we hear what they're truly capable of in terms of musicianship.
Yes.
The strings are fantastic, and they fit so well with the funeral bell sound that is, you know, running throughout this particular piece. Just great overall misery is the best way I could describe this one. It's just pure misery and anguish, and I love it.
It was extremely beautiful at that point where you're saying, I just called it kind of like the middle part where it brings in the guitar, and it's just really nice. That pause right in the middle.
Yep.
Really was really good.
Then we get the guitar solo round about the 6.5 minute mark that, you know, has this almost dissenting kind of quality to it. Like, there's almost like a hint of madness creeping into it. As the song slowly fades out, we hear all the usual stuff you would hear in a funeral doom track, and it is just done absolutely perfectly here. It's a great opening song.
Definitely. It's beautiful.
Funeral bells and piano are accompanied by strings and spoken word.
The name of the song is Drowned.
Well, we're going to get to that point. I wanted to leave that for a moment because there's a part where that comes up. Basically, what we have here is, you know, again, well-executed death growls and clean vocals alongside the aforementioned spoken word intro.
Yeah.
The the whole package here is one of complete atmosphere and doom.
Absolutely.
We have what I like to think of as a descending element in this music. It has its high moments and really aggressive moments almost, but then we get to the more dreaded feelings and that more claustrophobic feelings, and that's where the title, Drowned, comes into it, I feel. Where you hear the strings being played and that melancholy sound, you know, the melody is just, suffocating almost, you know, when you hear those words being added and the guitar parts coming in, just an overall, like, drowned claustrophobic feel.
Definitely. And the prose at the end is really, really good.
I know the accompaniment with the funeral bells as well, it just closes out with that guitar solo like someone has just drowned. And I want to emphasize that. It sounds like someone is being drowned.
Yeah.
Musically. Nothing needs to really be said about this one, you know, because we've already covered this song in a previous video. Links will be in the description, of course, guys.
Yes, really nice song.
The only thing I'm going to say here is simply this. One of the most heartbreaking and beautiful pieces in funeral doom.
Yeah.
It is perhaps the very definition of the genre. The guitar intro to this is just classic funeral doom.
Oh, just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I really like it.
The overall tones of it are just magnificent. Like, they really get you in the mood.
I really
At least
like
that's what I
cymbals.
feel.
I enjoyed the cymbals. They're just there throughout, but the use of that is really pretty in the song. Pretty is a weird word, but they are throughout, and it does give it this sort of beat. I just thought the use of that was really nice.
A very gloomy overall vibe to it, I feel it gives it. You know, especially when you hear this more metal sound to the rest of the song. You know, this is again a reminder that this is still a metal band.
Yeah.
You know, there isn't too much necessarily to dive in outside of that, except for you hear more of the actual anguish and anger and pain more so in this.
Deeper. Yeah, it is. And
at least in terms of the music anyway, you know.
Once again, they had that sort of pattern, I think, with the music where they have the interlude in the middle, which really is nice. So when you're listening to a song that's really long, you're listening to the first part and following along the lyrics like you should be, as we have said many times, please do. Of course. And then the interlude kind of brings it down for a minute, so you can sort of gather your thoughts, and then it goes back into a different portion of the song, which is really a nice way to lay out something like this.
It is, especially when it comes near, like, you know, the whole, like, stringed parts that have that, you know, mournful, melancholy tone. The death growls and the clean singing are just absolutely hauntingly awesome. Right. We have a mix of both the singing and the guitar that, you know, leads us out of the track, alongside, again, that death wailing sound to close it out finally. Yeah,
it's not always real loud, but it's there, and it gives it a spooky atmosphere.
It does. It is definitely one of, like, gloomy and doomy sense to it.
Yes.
Cold, soft guitar is our intro to this one.
Yes.
With well-placed spoken word along the strings that create the atmosphere of this bearing sense of loss in the music. Harkening back to that sort of very first instrumental, you know, of the intro. It kind of has that same feel here.
I did put down light, soft wind again. Yeah.
The clean vocals, again, amazing. The progression of it all is just pure melancholy. That's
spoken word. Spoken word is used as well.
Yeah.
Clean voice, clean voice, back and forth. I said the exact same things you just.
It's just amazing how they do it.
It is. This one really
in and out of it.
I mean, I put in capital letters "nice" and underlined it. Like it's very interesting. You cannot listen to this and not say, "Wow, that's really a great idea." You know, it just sounds great.
Exactly. Plus, you also have like the elements of like the solo and the strings that are just like extremely depressing. They almost sound like they're crying.
But I think that's the point.
It is. It creates that extremely somber atmosphere.
Right. This one in particular, yeah.
And then when we hit the sort of climax, if you will, that's when, again, that anger comes back. That angry loss.
Right.
Of like, how dare you leave me? And the music reflects that
it
so
does.
well.
It really does. I loved this.
And then at the end here, for this track, it ends with the spoken word, and then it fades out. And it is just perfectly executed.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Orchestral atmosphere is what this one gives off.
Yeah.
Alongside the spoken word that is just extremely ghostly and like old-fashioned like record players sounding.
This was excellent. And the beautiful, I double-starred this, the piano solo at the end.
Yes. Just absolutely amazing.
I mean, these are very good musicians.
They are. They're incredible.
It blew me away because, and I always say this, I didn't think I was going to like it that much. And then I always end up liking the albums we do.
Well, speaking of which... Overall thoughts?
Heading to perfection. Trying to achieve something. These people are not playing around. This is very good musicianship and gets the point across in the music what is being said in the lyrics. And I can't wait till we get to the lyrics. But anyways, you know me. But the music is defining what's going on.
I'm simply going to put it like this. Wow. This album, musically, incredible. Absolutely incredible.
I mean, I agree. I don't really know a whole lot about music, but I do know that this music is underscoring the ideas of the lyrics, or going along with, or blending.
Yes, so, that's why you have these various tones of loss and anger and pain and suffering, which are extremely relatable.
I agree. I think this was beautiful.
It is. And I'm also going to say this, on par with Funeral.
I agree, and we have discussed this privately. Funeral to me is a magnificent band.
Absolutely.
With excellent musicianship and lyrics. And this band as well. And to me, when I listened to it, there were such similarities.
Yes.
In some way, so
you could almost hear like an influence.
Yes, I would say that. Beautiful.
Absolutely beautiful. So, no need to really go into the first track, because that was just an instrumental. There was nothing there, word-wise.
Right. It just sets up the tone.
Yeah. So let's just jump straight into track 2, which is called...
This Unbearable Pain.
And what a fucking title.
So, there was something I wanted to mention, though, about the title of the album. I did look up the word agonic. Agonic, you think, full of agony. That's not what it means. It is actually a mathematical term having to do with something to do with divergence or non-divergence of angles. So it's a very interesting choice of word. It's a very old word, and it's not really used anymore, which I think is kind of cool. So,
So that does lead me into this little side note here, though. That seems to be a theme for Funeral Doom, using words that aren't necessarily in use anymore.
Right.
I think really get across the feeling and meaning behind it all.
I think it harkens back to days of old when the whole majestic sort of ideas about death and the grandness of, say, funerals was more in vogue. Onto This Unbearable Pain. Well,
goddamn.
The pain of being alive when someone is dead. That is what this is about. One of my favorite lines: Scars are my attire turned into grief.
We're
wearing our depression, our grief. We're wearing it.
Yeah.
It's there. It's the kind of song that is about, are you ever going to be with me again? Where are you? I miss you. That kind of thing.
Well, see, this is what leads me into my favorite lines. Crying out to the sky, asking why.
Yeah.
I may never find a reason. Just that idea is like,
right.
Oh.
I mean, it's a universal question.
It is. Because we've all done this.
Right. When someone passes away, you really don't know what is in store. None of us do. And that is when the questioning comes in. And you don't know what's going to. No one can tell you. And that's the big,
and it
great
can also be
mystery.
a kind of a terrifying thought. Because that's kind of what the lyrics are exploring, is this scary idea of it. Like, this is fucking frightening.
That everything devours, that everything withers.
Right?
Why the wounds? Why the wounds still bleeding? Why?
Caught in a lie of a better day? Like, Jesus Christ, come on.
Right. We have got here just basically laying down what this story of this album is about.
Yes.
Someone's dead,
raw emotion,
and a person is just feeling the horrible, horrible pain of it. Yep. So that's the beginning of the whole, sort of progression through this album. Drowned.
Okay. Fucking hell. It just gets more depressing.
Oh, yeah. Drowning.
That's the best way I can put this.
You know how we say, I'm drowning in sorrow?
Yes.
I'm drowning in grief.
This is that personified.
Right. The feeling that you're dying from the sorrow. Here we go. Sure, life is killing me, injuring me, burn as hell as I die. I mean, what more can you want? This is like that someone has died, but you're dying. You're dying. A part of you.
Or has died.
Yes.
It's that idea of, a close loved one, or your so-called soulmate, or, those ideas. When that person does leave, and they obviously can no longer come back, you do feel as if you are the walking dead.
Right.
Which...
It brings us to the thought of not being able to escape that feeling.
Right.
You think that this is what I'm stuck in for the rest of my life. You think that every day, and I drown. I'm bound. Eternally I drown. I can't stop it.
Such powerful wording as well, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, the section that I picked out that stood out to me was, "Oh, Mother Death, don't you leave me here. I'm so tired. Recall my grey days." I'm just like, oh, okay. And then the last part there, and those unending night. I have visions of, still to this day, of what it was like when I lost my mother. The day doesn't get any brighter, but the night gets darker and longer. For that, like, period of grief where it's the strongest, where it's the most raw. And this is what I believe we're tapping into, is those raw emotions here. Those very first initial, like, months, maybe even in the first year of dealing with that.
I think also in this album, we are going through stages of grief.
Yes.
So, and I love that idea.
So
it's just so... out there, like the emotion, you're not hiding them away. They're like there,
Right, so you kind of wear your sort of scars on your sleeve type idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Track 4 is...
Well, it's So Far From Paradise that we already reviewed. We just might want to say, go look at our review of this single that we did, and you will surely love this song, and the lyrics just absolutely beautiful.
I'm just going to add a brief little note here.
Yeah.
This song sums up the entire album.
Yes, I think it does too, glancing over the lyrics. I do believe it does.
This is the heart and soul of the record.
Yes, this is all about the, like, memories and things that the person brings to your mind.
Exactly. And, again, goddamn fucking heartbreaking.
So was that one not in spoken word?
Yes.
Okay, so they can go, and it's not a long song and it's not a long review. You can go look at that one that we already did.
Again, links will be in the description, guys. I highly recommend you check it out.
Cursed into eternal void.
Oh, we're in the shit now.
Oh, this is one I like the symbols in. But anyways, one thing I did want to say is it is quite difficult to make out the words as they're singing the death growl. You probably will want to look at the lyrics for sure with this one. To me, this one is even deeper and darker. We are now into the bottom of the barrel here, the hole. We fell into the well and to the bottom at this one.
Or as I like to put it, you're now in the fucking grave.
You probably are. So, this one just, what can I say? Cursed into eternal void. The title says it all. You know, doomed by sorrow, wander in our nightmare, death arise. I mean, you're wallowing in your sorrow at this point. This is the wallowing.
Yeah.
So,
again, that sort of leads me into my favorite line, actually.
What's that?
The overwhelming faces of this endless suffering life.
Yeah. I like the sort of comparison through the forest of my pain. Well, a forest is full of tons of trees, so your pain is just, like so big. That's what it's saying. So ginormous.
It's almost that sense of you can't see the forest for the trees idea, but with your own suffering.
Right. So this one, beautiful song once again. Definitely read lyrics. And it's
highly recommended.
Long lyrics, really easy to read and get the idea. I mean, it's just your basest emotions, you're down there, wallowing.
Absolutely beautifully written.
Alone in my dreamlands.
So, I'm gonna open this one up with my favorite part.
Okay.
What I'll embrace if I fall asleep once more, alone, mournful, alone. Those words.
Oh, absolutely.
Caught me, and I'm like, oh, we're not stopping. This isn't stopping anytime soon.
Right. And they're driving home the idea of alone. And of course, alone is in the title.
Right.
I'm going to read a little piece here and then try to describe what this word means. Okay. The roads I walk are just traces and lead me to an eternal penumbra. So I'm like, penumbra, what the heck is that word? So I looked that one up, and beautiful. This is beautiful. It means the part that is between the dark and light of an eclipse.
Oh, that is absolutely beautiful.
It is. So when you know that, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Leading to an eternal penumbra. So that's a place that doesn't really...
Just like your dreamland type idea.
Yeah.
Right, so we're almost like in that twilight-y type state of mind.
Oh, it's
One of the things that I got from this, now, you could tell me if you feel the same, though.
Okay.
Is this is the fear of sleeping.
Ah, okay. Possibly. You don't know what's going to happen when you sleep. True. I felt that this one was, believe it or not, even though the end brings back in the anger, I felt that this one was the acceptance stage. That's what I felt. That there's some of that acceptance going on. When I found my solitude, there are things that are in here that give me the sense, first of all, the way the music is, the way it's laid out for the first 2/3 of it, is softer. It's much softer.
True.
It's more of that when you do begin to accept things, your thoughts are more, like poetic in a way.
Yeah, you've got more time to think about it and put things into perspective.
Yeah, you're starting to think instead of just wail. Heal my pain. You know, long is my pain, but heal my pain. Here's another great line. Like a tender loon wounded crossing thy forever sky. And once again, we have an old word in there, thy. Love it. Tender loon, bird. Mm-hmm. So we've got a wounded bird forever crossing the sky, basically.
That just creates fantastic imagery.
I know.
Like, I'm sitting here and I'm just picturing all of this stuff as I'm looking at the lyrics, and I'm just like, I'm speechless. The imagery that is coming to, like, the forefront of my imagination right now, I don't even know how to describe it. It is dreamlike.
Well, hence the title.
Right.
You know, when the anger sort of halts for a bit, you are more like, your thoughts are a bit scrambled when they start to accept things, but they're beginning to. But then, at the end, even though this one is not full of anger. If you read these words, they're not angry words anymore until you get down to the end. And then, once again, they bring in full sound of anger.
Yeah. And
still questioning. You know, you still have the questioning before the acceptance and, you know, still with the anger. It does flip-flop back and forth when you go through the stages of, you know...
Oh, yeah, because you never go through the stages in a set order. That they constantly come back and forth.
Right. So I do
And that's what's beautiful about these words, is you get that sense of, this is the mindset of someone who has, like, firsthand had this happen, and this is their experience with it.
Yeah.
This is why I absolutely love Funeral Doom, because it doesn't shy away from the human experience.
I think that's lovely. I'm probably going to say this wrong, but I think it's the Aonaran, 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 and I did look it up. Do you know what it means?
I have no idea.
It means like a hermit, a loner, or a recluse.
That makes sense for what the lyrics are, yes.
It's very short. You know, the sort of chorus in the middle, Aonaran, dwelling lifeless,
Oh, like, yeah.
Alone. You know, this is...
just a miserable existence.
Okay, so what I got from it was despising life.
Yeah.
And embracing the thought of death and of dying. Well,
this is where, like, it leads me to my favorite line here. Entombed in oblivion.
Wonderful.
Like, I think that sums up the whole experience of this last track. To hell with it.
Right.
Like, there's no point. You've reached the end of the sort of string, so to speak.
They say it at the very end. Not afraid of dying, not afraid at all. In other words, you have already, most likely, from what I'm getting from this album, watched someone die, and you have done the suffering following the death. And now, after the anger, after the acceptance and the questioning and all that stuff, you're like, okay, it's going to happen to me eventually, and I'm just going to accept that.
But there's also a slight twist that you could put on it, though. And this is where it could get even darker.
Oh dear, here we go. What?
It could also be... Someone could interpret this as, like, you know, the giving up rather than the... Yeah, it's just a part of life.
As we all know, death. And the older you get, the more you think like this. Because... unfortunately, our lives run on a line that goes from birth to death, and the closer you get, at least age-wise, to that end, you begin to think differently than you did when, say, you were 20 years old. You know, you start to realize, wait a minute, you know, life is fleeting. It's going to happen to everybody, this death, and, you know, I can't sit around and stew on it because what's the point? But this one, to me, just really love it. Excellent piano solo, by the way, at the end. Really good.
It is. It absolutely is. And we have a interesting piece of art here.
Yes.
Where it looks like we have 5 people in robes mourning at a riverside in a dead forest.
Which gives it a very old-fashioned spin on it, because nowadays people don't dress like that to go to a funeral, you know. So
Right.
this gives it they almost look like the kind of statues you would see in a cemetery.
True. I would
And
also
you
say...
have the lake, the shadows falling onto the lake, everything's dark, you have some birds here and there, like probably crows or ravens.
Yeah.
And it's really atmospheric.
And somber. Like, the tone is dripping with atmosphere, and the somber colors are fantastic here.
And all the word I have for it right there is just death. Like, that's what, you know by looking at that. If there was no title on there, if there was no, Lament Christ on there, you would know that this is just a picture representing the death of someone.
And I would also say that the image actually speaks very well to all of the tracks on this album.
Yeah,
someone has managed to capture the exact concept of what each song is about on this album. Because like it's mentioned, we've got the lake there, i.e. the drowning. We've got people mourning there, the So Far From Paradise.
They're showing pain on their faces. Well, can't really see their face, but their hand gestures, the way
their whole demeanor is very like
their body
sad
language.
And depressed and mournful. So, what would you give the score out of then?
I like it a lot. I would say like a 9.
A 9, she says. Funnily enough, I have to agree with that.
Yeah, I think it's very nice. Yeah,
definitely. Album score.
Oh.
So, what are we gonna score this one out of? Because, me, this just kicks my ass.
I know.
Every single time.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know what I'm doing.
Oh?
It's 10 out of 10.
What's it? No, I'm gonna argue that point. It's a 10.
Okay. We'll battle it out.
So, it's a 10, and that's the end of story.
Exactly.
With that being said, Christ almighty.
Right.
Just everything you could want in a Funeral Doom album.
Right.
Right here.
Right, I need to get this.
I don't know if there is a physical copy.
And
but if there isn't...
Let me ask you a question. Is this their first album?
Yeah.
I don't know how they did this.
I know.
They pulled it on here. I mean, seriously.
Blows my fucking mind.
Yeah, how do you do this? You get a bunch of guys together and say, yeah, we're going to do this fantastic Funeral Doom album about death. And I'm like, okay, I don't know how you did it, but you did it.
And again, if there isn't a physical copy, I am now going to politely demand one. Hint, guys, merchandise, get on the roll. It just, absolute fantastic album. Just blows me away every time I hear it. Nothing needs to be said outside of that. Links, of course, always in the description, guys. Go check out this band. If you've been sitting there going, I don't know, shut up, go listen. Well, that's gonna do it from us here, mourners. Until next time, remember, every day is a funeral.